Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. A very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DCU Daily. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad. X on TikTok, Mad Mickey's World, and on Snapchat, Mick, your host with the most. Try and not get offended. It's all jokes, everyone. Remember what Ricky Gervais said? We're going to die and there will be no sequel. So yes, welcome to yet another DCU Daily. And today I want to talk about the conflicting reports coming from different quarters. Some people say they've heard Superman's a great movie, a good movie, a really good movie. And others have said, well, Jeff Snyder, that it's bad, it's not very good, and it's not in a good shape. Because test audiences have seen this movie. So what we're getting now is conflicting reports. And my advice to you, my advice to us is to quieten down the noise. Ignore it all. Because everyone kind of spreading this has conflicting views. I feel really sorry for my fellow DC fans these days. I don't feel sorry for myself because I'm intelligent. I was brought up in the industry. I understand kind of what movie fandom's about on social media these days. But there's people who don't get it. There's people who are here for Zach. There's people who are here for James. You know, not many people seem to be here for Superman or for DC. There's a fan war going on. So when you hear from Jeff Snyder, oh, I've heard Superman's a bad movie. Not me, but him. The people who want to hate this movie, who want this movie to fail, are going to be saying, you see, I told you it was going to be bad. Yeah, this is good. And it's John Campea, actually, who turned around in one of his videos and said he's heard good things about Superman. I trust Jeff Snyder as much as I do John Campea. I mean, Jeff Snyder blocked me ages ago on X Twitter. But despite that, I think that Jeff Snyder has more real connections in the biz than John Campea does. And if I was going to trust anyone more, not because I want Superman to be bad, it will be Jeff Snyder. But as I said, the best thing we can all do is ignore the noise and judge the movie on its merits. It's the best thing to do. That's what we used to do in the good old days. If we liked the movie, yes. If we didn't like it, there was no social media to bitch on. We used to shrug our shoulders and go and watch the next movie, or turn our TVs on and watch Knight Rider or the A-Team. That's, what we used to do. Social media has taken away a lot of the enjoyment of watching a movie. Now, New Hollywood have taken most of the enjoyment away from making crap movies. But here's the thing, because we need to talk about this, and I need to be straight down your throat. I need to be honest with you. You've heard what I think. I have constructively criticised James Gunn on many, many occasions, but I've also complimented the man on many more occasions. I've tried to sit on the fence as much as I can about this movie, because I ain't Nostradamus, as I keep on telling you, and I don't know what's coming. But here's my perspective of James Gunn and comic book movies. There isn't a comic book movie or a streaming show in the case of Peacemaker from James Gunn I haven't enjoyed. No, I don't think he's Sir David Lean. I don't think he's Martin Scorsese. I don't think he's even Steven Spielberg. I don't think he's one of the great directors. It's like, James Gunn, Matt Reeves, Christopher Nolan, the cool kids, the fanboys think these are the bestest directors ever. To me, no modern day director can compete with the greats. They can't. As far as I'm concerned. But that doesn't take away that Matt Reeves, Christopher Nolan, James Gunn are perfectly good directors. I mean, yes, Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves are up there. James Gunn's a little bit lower. He's a capable writer-director. But I've enjoyed all the comic book stuff that James Gunn's given us. I enjoyed the Guardians trilogy. I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad. I thought Peacemaker was excellent. It's got some humour that some people may not appreciate, some adult humour, some nudity, But at the end of the day, it had a serious core kind of story. It was well executed, and I enjoy Peacemaker. So I'm not going to sit here just to inflame controversy and tell you that James Gunn sucks, that James Gunn's this terrible, devilish person. I don't know him. I don't know what he's done in his life. I do know he made those terrible jokes about children being abused. And I've said many times, I forgive him. It's not really for me to forgive him, by the way. It's all the children who have ever suffered from abuse that need to forgive him. He should have done he should have worked with abused children. I think that's the punishment Disney should have given him instead of firing him. But that's in the past. And I'm not here to hold out people's wrongdoings or look down on people, right? Because nobody's perfect. I mean, I've never done anything as low, right, as joke about children being abused, but I'm over it. We're all over it. We have to focus at the matter at hand. And the reality is here, there are people on the internet with agendas. I follow a lot of them. A lot of them are interesting. A lot of them amuse me. Sometimes I agree with all the agendas, all the things people say with agendas. But who hasn't really got an agenda? We all have some kind of agenda, right? But the thing is here, I have a responsibility to you all, whether you're Snyder fans, Gunn fans, whether you're the old-fashioned part of the fandom who actually love DC, right? Because that seems to be quite old-fashioned today. I'm a DC fan. I love DC films. I love DC TV shows. The good ones, by the way. If they're bad, I'll say they're bad constructively, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, when you hear Campea say he's heard really good things and you've heard... I mean, look at the context Jeff Snyder said it in, by the way. He was getting angry because Gunn denied one of the rumours that Jeff Snyder put out there. So he said, well, I've heard that your movie's bad, actually. Or someone told me, you know. Because originally, by the way, Jeff Snyder said he heard good things about Superman. And then he said someone told him he liked his open letter, but he was wrong about Superman being good. Now, Jeff Snyder just happens to say that. And as I said earlier, Jeff Snyder has great sources. He's normally quite accurate. But it sounded like Jeff Snyder was being a bit of a bitch. If you ask me, that's just my personal opinion. So just be old-fashioned. Wait till the movie comes out, like I'm going to do. Watch it. No bias. You've got to forget what they did to Snyder while you're watching the movie. What they did to Snyder was wrong. What they did to Henry was wrong. Lying that Henry was coming back was blatantly wrong. They've done a lot of bad things. But if you're going to go and watch this movie, don't hate watch it. Go and watch it. Judge it on its merits. Whether you love Zach or you love James, whatever your bias are, just go sit there and watch it and judge it for what it is. Now, I'm going to take you back to a leak about Superman a while back because one of these platforms kind of re-put it out there. It will be a complete shift to hardcore sci-fi and fantasy, set in a world completely different than ours. Heroes have existed for ages, and the story will show how these heroes have shaped DCU history. Right, so now, let's just say, put the rumours of it being bad or good or whatever, right, to one side. Ultimately, when you hear these things, you've got to ignore them. That's what I'm trying to reiterate to you. They mean nothing. Because films are subjective anyway. Do you remember when people went to see the Flash test screenings and said it was a great movie, and then when we saw it, it wasn't so great? I mean, I told you why, because they were watching the good version. But the point is, movies are subjective. A test audience, that's why test screenings don't work, because movies are subjective. But let's look at what it says here. It will be a complete shift to hardcore sci-fi and fantasy. Now, if this is true, I want this. I want that. Because Superman ultimately is a sci-fi character, but I don't want the character to lose his heart, integrity, and soul. It's important he still has that. Set in a world completely different than ours. Now that is what I want. I want it to be set in a world completely different to us. Superman should be about escapism. There isn't someone who can fly. We've never met an alien who can fly before. It's a good thing to give us total escapism. Now, before the grounded realism police come at me, I like that as well. I love Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, and I like the groundedness of it. I like what Matt Reeves did with his first movie. I enjoyed The Penguin. I had problems narratively with the showrunner, by the way, and what she tried to do and the modern day crap she was saying. But ultimately, it was a good, well made series. I love the Snyderverse, and I love the groundedness and the realism of the Snyderverse. But that doesn't mean that one size fits all. That's why I'm not a here for Zack, or a here for Gunn, or a here for Reeves. I'm a here for DC. I'm a here for great stuff. And I grew up on escapism. The first movie I ever saw, Superman 78, then Star Wars 77. I saw, yeah, even though Star Wars 77 was released first, we didn't go to cinemas when we were kids, right? We were at home a lot, we were overprotected because of who my dad was, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Star Wars is as fantastic and fantasy-based as you can get. And Back to the Future, E.T., these were just pure escapism. They were grounded in a way, and they were grounded with great characters and great emotion, but they were pure escapism as well. So by the time you saw it, it felt like you were somewhere else. In your mind, you went somewhere else. And I felt uplifted, right, about these feel-good tales. And that's what a good movie, a good blockbuster, a good mainstream movie should give you. So if James Gunn has created a sci-fi based adventure, and he's created a metropolis and a DCU that's different to our real world, I like that idea. That's what I want, because we've had grounded. And as I say, one size should never fit all. But the moral of today's video, I should actually do morals to each videos, like they used to do in those He-Man cartoons. Today you saw someone speaking to a stranger. Don't speak to strangers, no. But I think the takeaway on today's video is stop listening to rumours and idiots on the internet. I think that's the most important thing to say today. That there's a film coming out this July. It's what? About just over 4 months away. Do you remember when it was a year away? Do you remember when it was 2 years away? We are so close, we can smell it. And I will reiterate this again. I nearly swore. This goes out on Instagram. I'm not sure if Instagram tolerates swearing, so I know YouTube do. But yeah, ultimately, I love Superman. I loved Superman since I saw Superman 78. A kid who was being bullied at school saw Superman 78 and felt energized. I love Superman. I don't think there's a version of Superman I hate. There's some I prefer to others. Like the Reeve version, outstanding. I appreciate that people love Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. It was a romantic comedy. It wasn't for me, but I appreciate the chemistry that Dean and Terry had, and she's one of the great Lois Lanes. I wouldn't say that Dean's one of the great Supermen, but he had chemistry with Terry. That show worked for 4 seasons. I adore Smallville. Smallville really researched this character and understood who and what this character was. An outstanding decade, warts and all. It wasn't perfect, but it was a brilliant, to actually adapt Superman without the costume and make it so accurate to who and what Superman is and who and what his supporting characters are. Fantastic. So I love the character of Superman. If you love Superman, you will go to the cinema with an open heart. If you don't particularly care about Superman, but you're more here for directors, whether it's Gunn or Snyder, I couldn't give a shit. And I appreciate both Gunn and Snyder. You know that. I've enjoyed Gunn stuff. I've said that on a multitude of occasions. I do prefer what Snyder did with DC. I'm not going to lie. That kind of rings my bell a little bit more. But I think James has made really good comic book movies. And Peacemaker was great. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend to please one fandom over the other. I've liked what both men have done. And the evidence is here to suggest that Gunn is capable of making great comic book movies, or at least good comic book movies. Now, normally, his comic book movies are very samey. Group of people who maybe have, been criminals, and then they decide to, they join with other people and they become good, better people. And they go through this human evolution. which is beautiful and brilliant. So some people are saying it's a mixture of Guardians of the Galaxy and Wonder Woman 2017. Now, what an odd cocktail that would be.